Okay, so I'm out on the side of the road, so please excuse the headphones today, but the bagworm is on the march, and I want to make sure that you know what to watch for, because you can have these beautiful arborvitaes and have a nice shrub line, and it can seem like overnight, all of a sudden it just turns brown and really gets ugly for the rest of the season. And if you're seeing these little pine cones, or what looks like a pine cone on your arborvitaes, don't be fooled. Arborvitaes don't produce pine cones. That is actually an insect that can actually do a tremendous amount of damage to your arborvitaes at this time of year. Okay, so if you're seeing this on your arborvitaes, where your stems may be going brown, seeing lots of brown pockets in there, do not assume that that is just drought damage, because it's not. Okay, so it is mid-August and the bagworm is a little caterpillar. I can't even say it's little, it's pretty sizable. But what it's doing is it's crawling around arborvitaes and it has to hide itself. So it makes this little cocoon around the outside of it, but it carries it around with it. I'm gonna see if you can see this little pocket right here. So they kind of look like pine cones, and that's how they hide in plain sight from predators. They hide in this sack. The difference is they carry that sack everywhere they go. And what they're doing is they're grabbing little pieces of the arborvitaes and they're gluing it to the outside of that sack. So it just looks like it's part of the tree. And so the damage that it can do is it can cause really bad defoliation of the whole tree. So in this spot here out on the side of the road, you can see this bush at the tail end chronically got nailed with the bagworm for so many years in a row. But overall, the arborvitaes next to it have handled it just fine. This one has bounced back, but it has not grown as much as the others. And I swear that the reason for that is simply because every August for a number of years in a row, this whole bush would just turn brown. And on first instinct, people will suggest and think that it's just drought, especially on a very dry year like this. But you can see most arborvitaes are handling this just fine. And I went scouting around to try to get some better pictures, but we just had our first customer come in, and you can see I had one little tiny pocket of bagworm where the stems are all defoliated, and it doesn't look the greatest, but it's normal. I'm not gonna treat for something like that. So sorry for the bouncing around on this video, being on the side of the road and being loud and customers coming in. Been a little choppy, but the moral of this story is the bagworm are in the march. They can defoliate evergreens, and the worst part about it is, although the books say it has potential to kill, I've never witnessed it kill, but it can defoliate, can make your evergreens look ugly for a year, and it can impact how much energy the plant is putting into growth and looking good and getting larger. So if these are smaller, less mature plants, the impact is going to be harder, because instead of putting out new growth in the spring to just put on fresh growth for the year, it's foliating all over again before it can even start putting energy into growth. And so, and if you don't want to be looking at brown worms, or rather brown evergreens all winter long, just scout around, look for those little cones on your arborvitaes, determine whether you need to be spraying or not. And luckily, with most things, the reason we talk about this is because we'd rather catch them when they're small before you have damage, and use a very biologically sound product like VT. That's a great insecticide for caterpillars, but it's a natural bacteria that's present anyway. We're just kind of supercharging our bushes, and it's very effective at knocking down the population and preventing damage. But you need to catch it before your plants look like junk, or you're stuck looking at junky looking plants for the following year. So that's it. Go scout around, make sure you're protected for this year, and hope that helps. Take care.